The wind prowled across the empty rangeland like some old restless spirit, lifting dust in long, wandering spirals as if trying to erase the tracks that had brought Elena this far from town. Dawn had not yet broken. The sky was a bruised gray, heavy with the promise of another hard day. The abandoned line shack crouched against the hillside. The lone structure for miles, its timbers weather-beaten and grayed by decades of sun and neglect. Elena stood on its creaking porch, arms hugged tight to her ribs, trying to decide whether the cold biting her skin came from the morning or the fear sitting heavy in her chest. Asterisk. She heard him long before she saw him. Asterisk. The distant thud of hooves, rhythmic and unhurried, rolled across the open land. No one else rode with that kind of intimidating calm, not the ranch hands, not the lawmen, not the drifters passing through Copper Ridge. Only one man did. Asterisk. Rhett Calder. Asterisk. The rumors about him had grown like wildfire. That he'd once taken down 3 outlaws with a single rifle shot. That he'd survived a lynching. That he never backed away from danger. That he never let anyone close enough to be considered a weakness. People whispered his name like a warning and a prayer mixed together. Asterisk. And Elena had sent for him. Asterisk. Not because she wasn't afraid she was, but because her fear for his brother was greater. Asterisk. Rhett's silhouette finally appeared over the ridge, emerging from the gray haze of pre-dawn light. He wasn't riding fast. He didn't need to. The horse beneath him, a massive dark bay, moved with the steady strength of an animal that trusted only one person in the world. Dust kicked up behind them, turning the approaching figure into an omen made flesh. Asterisk. Elena straightened as he drew closer, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, even though she knew it made no difference. Nothing softened Rhett Calder's gaze. Nothing softened the man himself. Asterisk. He halted a few yards from the porch, dismounted without a second thought, and let the horse stand free beside him. The leather of his coat, thick and worn, creaked as he walked toward her. When he stopped at the bottom step, she had to tilt her chin upward just to meet his eyes. Asterisk. You shouldn't be out here, Rhett said, his voice low and gravelly, as though he'd been up all night. It wasn't an accusation, but it wasn't far from one. Asterisk. Someone has to look for your brother, Elena replied, folding her arms tighter. And since you'll barely step off your ranch these days, asterisk, you don't know what you're talking about. His tone sharpened, cutting the rest of her sentence apart. Asterisk. You think I don't? She shot back. He's been missing 2 days. Everyone else has given up? You haven't even started. Asterisk. A long pause stretched between them. Wind whistled through the cracks of the old shack, lifting her coat and stirring his hair. She could see the exhaustion in the set of his shoulders, the faint shadow beneath his eyes. A beard had grown thick across his jaw and throat, the kind that marked a man who'd stopped caring about the passing of days. Asterisk. He scrubbed a rough hand over it, jaw tightening. This, he muttered, tapping the coarse hair, stays. I didn't say a word about it, she said, frowning. Rhett's gaze hardened, something raw flickering behind it. You shave, and I'll kill you. Asterisk. The words were so strange, so unexpected, they hung in the air like smoke. They weren't loud. They weren't shouted. But they carried weight fear disguised as a threat. Asterisk. Elena blinked at him. Rhett, what? Asterisk. Don't touch it, he said again, quieter this time. Almost under his breath, asterisk. She stepped down one level, bringing herself closer, almost face to face. Why? What could shaving that beard possibly do? Asterisk. Rhett didn't answer at first. He looked away toward the horizon, toward the wide emptiness stretching for miles, as though he could outrun the question. But the truth sat there anyway, heavy and unmoving. Asterisk. Finally, he lifted a hand to his collar. Asterisk. Elena, he murmured, just don't. Asterisk. But she waited. She didn't move. She didn't blink. She just stood there, steady and unafraid, or at least pretending well enough for him to believe it. Asterisk. Rhett exhaled. Sharp and ragged. Then he pulled down the collar of his coat. The air seemed to stop. Asterisk. Just below the beard. Pale against his sun-browned skin, a jagged scar carved a violent line across the base of his throat. A rope mark. A choke mark. A brutal reminder of how close he had come to leaving this world. Asterisk, not a straight cut, not a thin slice, but a deep, tortured ring, the kind that told a story no man ever wanted spoken aloud. Asterisk, Elena's breath caught. She didn't step backward. She didn't flinch. But her stomach twisted, her heart stumbled, and suddenly everything made sense in a way she had never imagined. Asterisk, Rhett cleared his throat, though it sounded more like a forced swallow. It's not about the beard, he said quietly. It's about what happens if someone sees underneath. Asterisk, the wind stirred the unshaven hair across his jawline. He tugged the collar lower, exposing even more of the scar. It was an ugly thing, no, a terrifying thing circling his neck like an unfinished noose. A ghost of the moment someone had tried to end him. Asterisk, people think I'm dangerous because of how I look, Rhett went on, eyes fixed on the dirt. The beard, the coat, the way I carry myself. They stay back because they think I'm capable of anything. That I'm unpredictable. Asterisk, and you want them to think that? She asked softly, asterisk, his jaw clenched. I want them to leave me alone. I want no one looking close enough to see what really happened. Asterisk, Elena took another step down the stairs until she stood on the ground with him. The distance between them shrank to less than a hand's width. Rhett, she whispered, who did this to you? Asterisk, he shook his head once. Doesn't matter, asterisk, it matters to me. Asterisk, that's your problem, he shot back, but the words lacked heat now. They sounded tired, worn thin by secrets that had lived too long in the dark. Asterisk, Elena reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted. But he didn't. Her fingers brushed the edge of the scar. Light as a feather, but enough to make his breath hitch, asterisk, for a moment. Neither spoke, asterisk, I'm not broken, he murmured. Though there was a quiet question buried beneath the words. Asterisk, I never said you were, she replied. But even the strongest man can't carry everything alone. Asterisk, he swallowed, and she felt the faint movement beneath her fingertips. When you said you'd come out here alone looking for my brother, he said, voice faintly shaking, I panicked. That's why I said what I said. The beard. The threats. I just needed you to stay. Needed one thing not to change. Asterisk, I won't leave, she said. But I'm not staying behind either. Asterisk, he finally lifted his eyes to hers. Something in them was unsteady, like a man rediscovering what it felt like to trust. Asterisk, the dawn cracked open then, thin streaks of amber stretching across the sky. Rhett straightened, tugged the collar back up around his throat, and restored the shield he'd worn for years. But now she knew what lay beneath it. Now she knew him. He stepped back, nodded once. If we're riding together, he said, we leave now. Asterisk, Elena mounted her horse, hands steady despite the storm of emotion swirling inside her. Rhett swung into the saddle beside her, his posture tall, his presence once again that of the silent, unbreakable rancher everyone feared. But she had seen the truth. Rhett? She asked as they turned toward the open land. Asterisk, yeah? Asterisk, you're not alone anymore. Asterisk, he didn't answer with words. He didn't have to. The slight incline of his head, the faint unclenching of his jaw. The quiet exhale that wasn't quite as heavy as before, those were enough. Asterisk, together, they rode out into the vast, unforgiving wilderness toward danger, toward answers. Toward whatever waited beyond the horizon, asterisk, but for the first time in years, Rhett Calder didn't ride alone.